So you're a few sentences into the introduction of week 2. Side note, congratulations, you did it. You made it past week 1. Nice job. Okay, so now we're actually looking at the text, and one of the things that I want to say right off the bat is whenever we read the Bible, and you could even expand this, whenever we read any book or look at any piece of art or watch any film or television show or listen to any piece of music, we are bringing a certain baggage with us. That sounds more pejorative than I want it to, but we bring with us our background, our experience, our family history, our education, our gender, ethnicity, socioeconomic status. We bring all sorts of factors with us to the act of reading the text. It's almost as if it colors how we look at the stories, not only of the Bible, but of any form of literature or art that we are viewing at that moment. There's no such thing as an objective reading of the Bible because we all bring this stuff with us to the act of interpretation, which is why it's so important for you to read in community with people who don't bring the same experiences, the same education, the same gender, ethnicity, those sorts of things to the act of interpretation. Now, if you want to push back on this, let me just give you one kind of silly example of how this plays out, the things that we bring to the text that almost go unnoticed for us. So, you remember in Genesis chapter 3, the serpent shows up, the serpent tricks the woman into eating from the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, which she is not to do. The woman then gives the fruit to her husband, for lack of a better term. He eats of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and this is a bad thing in the story. And the way the author reports this is after they had eaten the fruit, they become aware of what has happened to them. They even sew clothes for themselves, they're putting fig leaves together to hide their nakedness. And then it says, they hear the sound of the Lord God, who was walking about in the garden, according to Robert Alter, in the evening breeze, which is just a fascinating image. The NIV says, in the cool of the day, the Lord God is walking about, which again, really, really crazy. And here it says the human, ha-adam, is the Hebrew term there for the man, the human one, and his woman would be a very literal translation of that. His wife would be a different, more. We're putting some work into that term there with the man and his wife. So either way, we have the human and his woman. They hide from the Lord God in the midst of the trees of the garden. And then the Lord God says this, where are you? Okay, now when we read this, we bring all of our previous experience, our education, the Sunday school lessons we've heard, the sermons that we've heard, and that informs the tone of this phrase, where are you? Check this out. The words on the page, they could be read in any number of ways, and they will be very different. For example, when you read it, and the Lord God called to the human and said to him, where are you? And the Lord God called to the human and said, where are you? And the Lord God called to the human and said to him, where are you? You see, like how you intonate this phrase changes the meaning pretty dramatically. Now, I'm guessing that most of us, we kind of are operating under the assumption that the Lord God knows all the things. And the Lord God knows where Ha-Adam is, where the human one is. So maybe it's like when I come home and my son is on the couch, my youngest son is on the couch and he's got a blanket over his head and he's kind of giggling and I say, where's Jude? Where is Jude? You know, like he's the bump on the couch with a blanket over his head. I know that, he knows that, but it's the game that we're playing. Or it might be when I come home from work, which I'm painting this picture like I go off to work, and I don't because it's a pandemic, but whatever, just play along with me. I come into the house and my oldest son, Abram, has done something and he's hiding, and I want to know, like, where are you? I want to talk about what's happened. I want to talk about why Jude is in tears on the floor claiming that you kicked him. Like, where are you? Let me know. For us, because we think that God knows all the things, that second option is not a real option. So we immediately read, where are you, with a kind of a sing-songy, where are you? I know where you are. And we don't believe that God could possibly not know where Ha-Adam is because God knows all the things. But note, that's our reading in because of all of the stuff that we bring with us to the interpretive, to the act of interpretation.